Next, we're going to work on the dashboard structure. So add a new sheet, rename that dashboard 2, and clean it up as I usually do. Change the text font and the alignment, and take a peek back at the example dashboard just to see what columns and rows I don't need. So anything after U and after 47. So get rid of those. Select the entire row range, resize it to 30, and the first and the last column, resize them to 30 as well. Before we start creating the outline in our template, I do want to show you that this entire dashboard consists of two parts. This section right here is a summary section for the task, and this section right here contains summary information for the project. So they look identical. They're almost mirror images of each other, as you can see, but we're only putting information in this area that are related to the task and in this area related to the project. The structure is exactly the same. The only thing different is the formula references. What I'll do is create this first half. Once that's complete, we're going to copy that and paste it in this section. So we have the first column. Okay, so this is the spacer column, space, 2 columns, space, 2 columns, space, and 3 columns. So let's do the same here. First, we'll add the spacer columns. So this one right here, so we have 2 normal columns, space, and 1, 2, 3, and space. Right click, resize, 30. And the normal columns, so these wider ones, we're going to resize them as well. Right click, resize, make them 125. Next, we'll add this rectangle. So the first 2 rectangles are 2 columns and 3 rows, and the next one is 3 columns and 3 rows. So do the same thing. We're going to add borders around them, and the same for this. And this is going to be 3 columns and 3 rows. So make sure you select 3 columns. And I'm going to add colors, and you can add whatever colors you are using. I'm going to add color from my color palette. And back here, this is where the text is going to go, and this is where the formula is going to go. So what we're going to do is just merge these cells and this one. So the text is going to go here and the formula is going to go here. And I'm just going to paint format and paste it here because these two are the same. And for the last one, just merge the top and merge the bottom. And we can actually just copy the text here and place it in our template. So the first is total number of tasks due this week, overdue task, and number of completed tasks this week. So we're just going to copy that. Again, remember, these are not formulas. These are just headers for the information that's going to be pulled into the formula section. Make it smaller, so 8 should work. And go to the vertical alignment and use bottom alignment. And for this area, I'm just selecting all of them at once. Change the font size to 24. Make it bold. We're going to add formulas in these spaces later on. Next, we'll work on this section here. So this section is a rectangle that goes all the way from 6 to 15. I will explain in more detail what this represents as we are putting in the formulas. But for now, let's just focus on the structure. Back here, select row 6 to 15. Put the external border. And here is going to be the header, so we can merge that and add a border around there as well. Let's just go back for 1 second. Here's a drop down and the note telling you to select the value in this drop down. So we're going to create that same effect as well. So here, add a border around this first cell. And here's going to say select. Select the rest of the cells in that row, merge, go to data validation, add rule, and drop down from range, select data range, go to your task database. So task database 2 for me. And I'm going to select the task name, just selecting a few and removing the row number so it selects everything. Click OK and advanced option because I want the style to be arrow, and click done. So now when we click the arrow, you can see all our tasks show up here. Go ahead and apply whatever colors you want. I will be applying colors from my color palette. And right below the header section, so the rest of the table, select it. We're going to add internal borders. So go to borders, change it to the light gray color, change it to the dotted line if you want. And I'm going to select this dotted line style and select horizontal borders. So now it's harder to see, of course, because we still have the grid lines on. And this is going to be task summary. That's the title of the table. So task summary. Okay. And this part is done. Next, we're going to work on this table here. So it's going to go from 17 all the way to the end. The first row is the header. The next one is a drop down like this. And the last one is where the headers for the column is going to go. So let's do the same back here. Select the entire range all the way down from 17 through 46. Let's change it back to our normal border color, add a border, and we're just going to add borders around the different layers up until where the actual table content is going to be. So I'm just adding another border here and one more here. Then select this area. This is where the values are going to be filtered into. Do borders, internal borders as well. So change it to the internal border style that you're using. I'm using the dotted line and horizontal borders. We're going to merge these cells. So merge this first one. This is going to be the overall header. And here is going to be select. And here's where the drop down is going to be. We do have 2 drop down. Merge this first 2 columns. And this one is fine. We're going to place one drop down here, the other drop down here. And we don't need to do anything here. Let's go back to the example. For the actual table area, we have 3 columns. So this is the first column, the second column. The third column, we've actually merged the last 3 columns. So from D to F. So let's do the same thing here. Select column D to F for the internal part of the table. Merge horizontal. So here's what it looks like now. Next, we're going to add drop downs. The first drop down is a timeline. So due today, due this week, due this month, and overdue. If I edit this, you see that these are regular drop downs, so not from range. So we're just going to type these values in. Due today, due this week, due this month, and overdue. It has to be exact because when I show you the formula is going to have this exact verbiage. So due today, this week, this month, and overdue. And it has to be spelled correctly for it to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this to the first section for drop down. And then for this section, we have another drop down. And this would be for the employee name. Back here, we'll add the first drop down here, data validation, add rule. And this is going to be regular drop down. So we're going to do due today, just type exactly how I have it typed. Due this week, due this month, and we have overdue. Advanced options, change the style to arrow and click done. And for the next one, do the same thing, add rule, but change it from drop down to drop down from range. Select data range, go to our setup tab and select team members and click OK. We're also changing the rule, the style to arrow and click done. So now we have our 2 drop downs. And now we can just add the information here. So here is going to be upcoming task and due dates. And this is going to be select. Just like we have here, it's more of an instruction so the user knows to select. So this would be select timeline and team member name. Of course, you can type employee or something else that is more specific to your use case. Now go ahead and add whatever colors you want. I will be adding colors from my color palette here. So this part is done. Next, we'll work on this area right here. We have 3 spaces. The first one is a rectangle for this horizontal chart. And then we have 2 squares, one for a bar chart and the last one for a pie chart. The first one is going to be 3 columns from row 6 all the way down to 20. So these 3 columns all the way down to row 20. So add the outline there. And the next one starts in row 22 and goes all the way to 33. So 22 to 33, add the outline. And this is going to be identical to the last 2. So we can use the paint format and add the last one right here. Merge the title area, add the border around it, and just repeat the same steps, merge at the border. And then go ahead and add whatever colors you want. And then you can merge this section right here. And then we'll add the headers when we actually create the charts. All right, so if we go back here, all we need to do is to copy this section and paste it here. Before we do that, let's change the sizes of the spacer columns. This is going to be a spacer column, Q and R. Right click, resize them to 30. Now that that's done, we can go ahead and select this first area. So H through J, copy that and paste it right here. So it's going to copy the label as well. We can change that later. Do the same thing for this area. Select from B to F, copy, and we're going to paste it in P. And now we have the exact same structure. Now remember, this is going to be for task and this is going to be for projects. So every time we see task, we're going to replace that with projects. So completed task will be completed project. And just anywhere we have task, change it to projects, change it here, overdue projects, project summary, upcoming projects, and due dates. We also need to change the drop down. So because this is a project summary, we want to select the project name. So click here and go to edit button, change the range, go to project database and select the project name. Hit OK. Now, you have to be careful with this step. When you hit done, it's going to ask you if you want to change it for both because now it's connecting this and this as one range. So what we're going to do is say no. So when I hit done, it's going to say, do you want to apply the change we've done here to this table? We don't want to do that. We want this to remain the drop down for the task and we want this new drop down to be applied only to the project. So we're going to select just this instance, so just this drop down. So click that. And now when we go here, we can select the project name and this is still the task list. Then we're going to change this because this is completely different. This is not going to be this predetermined timeline or deadline. This is going to be status. So we're going to change it from drop down to drop down from range. Go back to our setup tab and select the status right here, status column. Hit OK. It's going to give us a similar message when we hit done. And we do want to stick to just this instant because we don't want this change to be applied to this section. So click just this instant. And here we can select the different statuses. Here we still have the original due today, due this week, etc. This is going to be the same. So we do want to be able to filter by the person assigned to the project. So this is not going to change. When we add the formulas to these different areas, I'll tell you exactly what these areas represent. So we're done with the general outline. Here's what it looks like. Back to our checklist. We've created a dashboard structure. Next, we'll work on entering our dashboard formulas. So we'll go back to the example. We're going to start with this top section here. Starting with this section right here, we want to count the total number of tasks that are due this week. Here's the formula. It's a counting formula. What this formula is doing is going to look at the dates for the task. The task date is in column J. It's going to identify the week automatically and count the number of tasks within that date range. We're going to copy this back here. Here's where the formula is going to go. Paste it. We need to change the name to task database 2. So do that for both areas where we have task database 2, and enter. So we have 7 tasks. Let's test it out to make sure it's working correctly. Scroll over to where we have the date, column J. I'm recording this video May 29th. This week is from the 25th to the 31st. So any task between this date range is what it's going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these tasks right here. So now if we want to test it out, we can change this to the 24th and it should be 6 right here. One more thing, if your week starts on Monday, you're going to want to change this from 1 to 2. Change both of them. So this top one and this bottom part, change it to 2. And now it says 7 because it's including June 1st as part of the week because of the Monday start. So I'll keep it as Sunday start for now. And we can work on the next formula, which is the overdue task. And it's again looking at the dates in column J and seeing which dates are before today. And it's also looking to make sure it's excluding the task that has been marked as completed because you want the true number of tasks that are overdue. So let's copy this, paste it here, change it to task database 2, hit enter. Now we have 5. Let's go back here. So here are our tasks that are overdue. I think we have about 7 of them. So any date that is before the 29th, which is today's date, but it's not going to count all 7 because the task for May 28th is marked as completed and the task for May 19th is marked as completed. So that brings us down to 5. If I change this task from completed to any other status, so not started or pending, it doesn't matter as long as it doesn't say the word completed. Now we should have 7 tasks that are overdue. So when we go back here, it says 7, so we know the formula works the way it's supposed to. Next, we're going to do the completed task this week. Back to our example. So we have 2 tasks that we've completed this week. Here's the formula. It's going to look through column K, which has a task status, and it's going to look through column L, which has the date that the task was completed. So not the due date this time. We're looking for the completed date. The same as the other formula. If you start your weekday on Monday, change this from 1 to 2. Okay, this is for Sunday start. So copy the formula, go here, paste it right here, and change this to task database 2 and hit enter. So we have no tasks completed this week. So let's test it out to make sure it works correctly. Back here, here's our task status. This week starts May 25th and ends May 31st for Sunday start. So these dates are within this week. Let's add one more. So all these tasks have been completed this week, but it says 0 because the task status is something that is not completed. Let's change this 2 to completed. So now if the formula works correctly, it should say 2 tasks completed this week because these 2 tasks have been marked as completed and these dates are within this week. So when we go back here, it says 2. So the formula works the way it's supposed to work. Now we're going to work on the project side and we're going to do the number of projects completed this week. Back to our example. The formulas are very similar. We're just referencing a different sheet and some of the columns might be different. It's a count if formula. We're referencing the project database. Whatever is marked as completed, we're looking at the dates that's within this week. So copy that formula back here, paste it, change it to project database 2, and everything else should be good. So hit enter and it says 1 project has been completed this week. Let's double check that. Back to our project database. Here's our completed date. We have 2 projects marked as completed. 1 completed last week, as you can see, and this one completed this week. So our dashboard output says 1, so it does work and we can test it further. Let's change this completed date to a date this week. Let's say the 27th. So we have 2 of them and it should now say 2 projects completed this week, which is correct. Next, we want to display the number of projects due this week. So here's the formula. Again, the same count if formula. All we're doing is changing the logic and changing the location. So we're just going to copy that, go to our table here, change it to project database 2, do the same here, project database 2, and everything else should be the same. Remember, if you are working with Monday start, change this from 1 to 2. Change it here and here. This is for Sunday start. Click enter. We have no projects due this week, so let's check that. Project database, check our due dates, and we don't have a due date for this week, so we can change that. Let's change the year to 2025. So we have 2 projects due this week, May 26th and May 27th. Now we have 2 projects due this week. Next, we have the overdue projects. So what it's doing is going to look through the project database in column H that has the due dates, looking for due dates that are before today, and excluding projects in column I that have been marked as completed. The same thing we did for the task. Paste it here, change it to project database 2, do the same here, and enter. Now we have 5 overdue projects. Let's go back here to double check. So we have the due dates. So these 5 projects are overdue because these dates are in 2024, so they're definitely overdue. And these 2 dates are this week, but before the 29th, so it's counting these 2 as overdue as well. And it's not counting these 2 as overdue because these have been marked as completed. So these formulas work the way they're supposed to. Now we can move on to the next section right here. Now, this section, I'll go to the example so I can explain it better. This is going to be a task summary. So if you want to find out information about a specific task, what project is it under, who's the task lead, the task priority, what's the task status, you can select the task and it shows you that information immediately in this area. That's all this is doing. The first thing we're going to do is merge the cells. So these cells are going to be merged. So select the first column and the second column all the way down to the end of the table, merge horizontally, and do the same for the second half, but it's going to be 3 columns. So the spacer column plus the 2 regular columns all the way down and merge horizontally. So we have column 1 merged and column 2. So here's where we're going to start adding in our column labels. Equals task database 2. The first thing we want is the project name. And you can enter this in whatever order you want, right? So when you select your task, what do you want to see first when you select the task name that's related to the task? Do you want to see the project name? Do you want to see the due date? Whatever order you want. I'm going based on the order I already created. So we're going to keep going. In the second cell, equals. Here we want the deliverable type, same as we have done here. Project lead, task priority. So we're not displaying everything. We're just displaying what's pertinent. So you can choose to display what's pertinent to you or choose to display what I have done in this example. So let's continue. Project lead, that's the next one. So equals, back to our task database. Project lead is column G. Next is task lead equals task database, task lead equals task priority equals due date equals task status equals completed dates, enter. So here's what we have. Make it bold, italicized, and right justified and left justified. So next we're going to work on entering the formula that would filter this information. So here's the formula. It's a very simple formula. It's using the index function. So what it's doing is going to filter column D. Column D is where the project name is. It's going to filter that information when C7 is the task we have selected here, matches the task in column C. Column C in our task database is where our task name is. Change this to task database 2 and enter. So it's not going to display anything because we don't have a task displayed. So let's change that. Let's select the task. And now we have the project name showing up here. What's nice about this formula is we're going to just reuse it for the entire table. So I'm copying it and I'm going to paste it here. Now we have column E for the deliverable. So here we can change it to column E. And this one is column G. So do the same thing. Paste the formula. Change it from D to G. Change that to H. Task priority is in column I. So do column I next. The due date is in J. Enter. Task status is in K. And the completion date is in L. Now let's test out the formula to see if they work. Let's change it to a different task. Caption check. And you can see that these information automatically changes. For caption check, we don't have a completion date. We can double check this, of course. Caption check right here. And we don't have a completion date. Let's add one. Let's say today. And when we go back here, now it should display the completion date of today, which is what we just entered. So this section is done. Next, we're going to work on this section right here. This table is to display the upcoming task and their respective due dates. So due dates, the task priority, and the task name. And you can filter this information. So if you only want to see the task due this month that has been assigned to a specific person in your team, you can select that person's name and it filters by that person's name. And if you delete both, nothing shows up. So the first thing you want to do to activate this formula is to select a timeline. So due today, due this week, this month, and of course overdue, right? That's the first filter. So once you select this filter, the formula starts working. You can filter it some more based on the person's name. Let's go ahead and grab this formula. It's going to be a really long formula. So go ahead, pause the video, copy it. I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about my Patreon. If you are a member of my Patreon, there are different tiers, but there is a specific tier that allows you access to all of my templates that I have created, including this dashboard template. If you sign up for my Patreon, you have access to it and you don't have to worry about getting these formulas correct. But if you want, you can even just take a screenshot of this formula, put it in a software like ChatGPT or Gemini, and it should be able to extract the formula for you. We're going to copy this formula and going to paste it right here and carefully change all of the names of the tab. So from task database, we're going to change it to task database 2 several times. So just make sure you review the formula carefully. And if you're using a different task name, just go ahead and change it. But if you're making this template and you already named your tab task database 2, all you have to do is just use this updated version and you don't have to worry about changing it from task database to task database 2. So it's changed everywhere. Now we can hit enter. And let's test it out to see how it works. So first we'll activate the formula by selecting the timeline. Let's do this week. So we have 3 things due this week. This is supposed to be a date. We'll change the formatting in a second. We can further filter by selecting the person. Alice, none of the tasks here are tied to Alice. One is tied to Bob, this one right here. So the formula works. So select the first column all the way down, click on format number, select the date format you want your dates displayed. And then for this, I like to use the left justification because it just looks better than when it's centered. And you can do the same for task name, left justified as well. So then instead of typing dates, priority, and task name, all you can do is just do equals, task database, due date, right? Column J, priority, and then you can merge these 2 cells and left justified. So here's what the final product looks like. One more thing we need to add. You see how it's red because the due date is in the past and this is overdue. So let's change it to due this month. They're all overdue, so they're all showing up like this. Today's date is the 29th, so any dates before the 29th shows up as overdue. So this is conditional formatting. Here's the formula. B20 is the first cell with the due date. If it's less than today, it adds the conditional formatting rule. To apply the conditional formatting rule, select the entire section, this bottom table area right here, and add rule. Select the drop down, choose custom formula, paste, change the formatting style. I'm going to change it to this red color and change the text to white for some contrast, and done. All right, now these dates are due this week and they're all overdue because today's the 29th and all these dates are before the 29th. And this section is done. The good news is that once you've done it for this side, it's going to be easier to do it for this side because it's the exact same thing. We'll do the same thing that we did here. So the first 2 columns, merge them horizontally, and do the same for this. The last 3 columns in the table, merge them horizontally. So back to the example. We already did this drop down part. So all we need to do now is just reference the column labels and put the filter formulas in. So first is going to be company/client equals project database 2 company/client equals, do the next one, deliverable type, project priority and project leads are next. So do those 2 next, project priority, project lead. And I'm just copying and pasting because I know project lead is right next to project priority. So change this from E to F. And so some of them are right next to each other. And if it's easier, you can just copy the formula and change the column number, but not all of them are back to back. The next one here is project start dates and due dates. So that's G for the due dates, H, and project status and completed. So this is I and J. So that would be I, and the last one is column J. All right. So I'm at the bottom of this table, but in my example, I do have one more row that I use to make a progress bar. So we're just going to move things around, selecting this entire range, moving it down by 1, and then move this down here. And I want this formula right here. Okay, so that fixes it. So just make sure that for this table, it's from row 6 all the way down to row 16. This is going to be our progress bar. Make outer borders around it and change the color. So we'll work on this and then we'll come back and add the formula for the progress bar. So I'm just selecting all of them, right justified, italicized, and bold. And for this part, it's going to be left justified. Now we're going to do the same thing. Here's the formula. It's the exact same index formula we used. Q7 right here, that's where the project name is. Column C, that's the first thing we're going to be filtering, company/client name. And column B is where the project name is. So copy this right here in our template. Let's paste it and change it to project database 2 for both of them. Hit enter. Let's select the project to see what shows up. So we know it works here. All we need to do now is just copy them, paste it, and change the column name. This is column D, so change it from C to D. And it's the same process, so what I'm going to do is just speed up the video. But if there's an error, comment in the comment section if you need more help. All right, so this table is done. Now we can work on the project progress. We need to unmerge the cells here. Just unmerge all of it. Right here, you can see that this is just the label saying project progress. And here we're using a Sparkline formula. What this formula is doing is it's looking through the task database and it's going to identify the projects that is here, Q7, right? You can see Q7 here. That's this project. So it's saying, okay, for this project, what's the ratio of the tasks that have not been completed to the tasks that have been completed? And that's what's going to use to create the spark line. The spark line represents about 45%. So you can see the percentage here and you can visually see the progress bar. If we change this to another project, you can see that this changes. This is 42% and this is 33%. This will be 100% when all the tasks tied to a specific project have been marked as completed. All right, so copy this formula and here is project. Let's make this a little bit smaller, italicized and bold. The sparkline formula is going to go here. So merge these cells, leave the last one for the percentage. So merge these, paste the formula here, change it from task database to task database 2 or whatever the name of your task database is, task database 2, and enter. Another thing to point out is if you want to change the color, here's where you change the color. The color that's displayed here, this is the hex code for that color. So if you want a different color, just type in your hex code right here and it changes the color to the one you have selected. The last one is the percentage. So let's just copy that as well and paste. And we can change this to a percentage. Click on format as percent and decrease the decimal place as you like. Add vertical borders here like so, and go ahead and change the colors to whatever you want. I'm going to change it to colors in my color palette. One quick thing I want to point out is that the projects are being filtered from the project database. Okay, so there might be projects in the project database that are not yet in the task database. Here's an example of what happens when we select a project that does exist, but in the task database we don't have that project listed. We're going to have an error message. Let's do this one, operations. It exists in the project's database, but there is no task that has been assigned to this project yet. So you're going to get this error message. If you don't want this error message to show, one thing you can do is just change the drop down from the project database to the task database. So only projects that have tasks attached to it show up here. Or you can add an if error to remove that error message if you want the drop down to specifically filter from the project database. I hope that makes sense. So double click. And in front of the formula, after the equal sign, type if error, open parentheses, all the way down to the end of the formula, do 2 quotation marks, close parentheses, enter. Do the same for this, if error, all the way at the end of the formula, double quotation, close, enter. And now let's go back to filtering a project that has tasks attached to it. You can see the formula still works fine. But when you select something that doesn't have a task like this, it shows up as 0. Now we're going to work on this table right here. Back to our example. This is going to be filtering the upcoming task for the project we have selected here. So it's slightly different to the table over here. This is upcoming task based on the due date. This is going to be upcoming task based on the project that we have selected here, list of tasks tied to that project. So that's what this is. And you can filter by the status and name. So let's go ahead and copy this formula. It already has an if error attached to it, similar to what I did here, so that if the project doesn't exist, it shows this dash line. So let's copy that. Back to our template, paste the formula here, hit enter, change the name of the tab, task database 2 for me, and change to whatever name that you are using for your tab name. Double check to make sure Q7 contains the project name up here. And this is status, R19, and T19 is the name. Hit enter, select this column, format, number, date format. So we can type dates or we can reference it like we did before. This would be due date. This is priority. So go ahead and reference that, task priority. And this is task name. So do the same, task name, and merge this cell. We'll do the same thing that we did for the task area, meaning that right now these tasks don't have any priorities attached to them, but we'll make it left justified. Do the same for the task name, left justified. So now let's change the project to a different one. So this project works because you can see it has the task priority and the task name. We're also going to do the same thing we did here with conditional formatting. We can grab the formula, the same one. All we have to do is change the location of the dates. So instead of B20, we are going to assign it to P21 because this is the first cell with the date. So do add another row, select the range, so it's going to be this entire range. Hit OK. Change the rule to custom formula. Paste the formula. So now we're going to change this to P21. So now B20, P21, and all the way till the end. We have another B20. Select that, P21, and enter. Change the format and style. Just change it to the red color with the white fonts, and click done. Close this out. Now you can see that the due dates, May 27th is before the 29th, so it highlights as red. One more thing to mention for this table, if this first drop down is blank, it shows everything. If you have a situation where you have a really long list of tasks tied to a project, go ahead and just expand the table. And you can expand the table right here as well. So right now the table goes to 46. You can just make it go as long as necessary if you tend to have lots of tasks tied to a specific project. So this part is done. And we can finally cross this off. This is probably the longest and more difficult parts of the tutorial to go through. So we can cross it off. Now all we have to do is add the graphs. I already talked about my Patreon. Like I said before, if you're part of my Patreon, you will have access to different types of templates. Thank you so much, Patreon members currently supporting me. I truly appreciate your support. All right, so the last one, add our dashboard graphs and charts. Here are the graphs. So this section is for task. This section is for project. Task lead, project lead, task priority, task status, and project status. So pretty much the same thing, one dedicated to task, the other dedicated to project. I'll just change the colors like I have in my example, just to keep it the same. And one thing you'll notice, let's go back here, is that I'm also referencing the column name. So task lead, go to our task database, task lead. Next, we're going to enter the graphs. Select anywhere in the tab, click on insert charts, and we're going to use this bar charts here. For data range, click on the icon, go back to our task database, and it's going to be this column here. So I'm only selecting a few because we're going to remove the last row number. Hit OK. Now, when we get here, nothing shows up because we need to check this box that says aggregate. So once we do that, now we have our graph. Go to customize and change it to however way you want. I'm going to remove the background color and the chart border because I already have the space dedicated to that, and it already has a background color and a border. It doesn't need an additional one. If you don't want these lines to show, you can double click here, check off major grid lines, and it looks like this. And then you can change the color too. Double click the bar and change the color to whatever color you want. Next is task priority. So that is going to be right here, column I, and then do the same thing, insert charts, column charts, task database, and select the range for task priority. Selecting the entire range, click OK. Back here, click aggregate so it selects the right one. And I'm doing the same thing, removing the background and the border and just pulling it into the space. I'm also going to remove this grid line, so double click, remove the check mark in major grid lines. And one thing I did was to change the bar colors to match these icons here. So to do this, you can double click and click one more time. So you're only selecting this first bar that says high and fill color. Select a red color, go to the next one, select an orange color. You could also, instead of selecting a color, use this pick a custom color and just pick the color from here. And do the last one, pick a custom color and pick the blue color for the last one. So it matches even better. The last one is going to be task status. So do the same thing, equals task database, task status is right here. And insert charts. This is going to be a pie chart. Select the range, click OK, aggregate. And here we have our pie charts. A few more things to change. Remove the background color and the border. And we're just going to squeeze it into this space and we'll make an additional change. So right here, you can see that automatically, because it's a square, this legend doesn't quite work as well. It works if it's really wide. What I like to do is change the position of the legend to left. And now this works better. And you could also resize the chart a little bit so that this text fits better. And then we're just repeating the exact same steps for the project. So this is going to be project lead. Select the name project lead. And what we can do to save even more time is copy this chart. So I'm copying this chart right here. This is going to be the exact same chart style. The only thing is the range is different. So now we can go to edit charts and change the range. So right now it's task database. We don't want that obviously. So select another range, go to project database, and that's going to be project lead. So select column F, click OK. And back here you can see now it's actually showing information for column F, and you can change the color. So it's a different color for projects. Do the same thing here. Copy the charts, paste it here. Let's add the header, project priorities in column E. And now we can go to edit charts, change the range, project database, column E, click OK. And the chart updates to the priority for projects. The only thing is that the colors would have to be changed again. So the high is still correct, low is not. So just Click on that, change it to the green color. We can just use the green color here. The medium, that's going to be an orange color. Let's pick that from the screen. So that's going to be this orange color. And then urgent is going to be red as well. So we can maybe use a darker red and maybe change this high to a lighter red. This. Okay. So this is done. And the last is this one. Do the same thing, copy the chart, paste it here. And this is going to be project status. And now edit the charts, data range, project database. This is going to be column I. Click OK. And do the same thing. Just adjust it a little bit so that this text fits a little better. And that is it. Congratulations. You have created your very own personalized task and project database. So it's a lot to do. But what I encourage you to do is now that you have a working version of this, you can change things around. So if you don't want these graphs displayed here, you can display whatever graphs you want from the columns because you already know how to do this one. Or if you don't want your task priority showing up in this table, for example, you can just change it in the formula. So change the location of the cell that's been filtered, location of the column that's been filtered into the one that you want to filter. Thank you for sticking around all the way till the end. And before I wrap up, I just want to say a few things. Number one, if you like this video, if it helped you, if you're able to create something, let me know in the comment section. Were you able to create it completely? Did you make some changes? What changes did you have to make for your own specific use case? Number two, if you had difficulty or you have more questions, leave them in the comment section below. Number three, if you know someone and their job is to create these types of databases for their work or their business, I'll be happy if you share this video with them. And number four, if you have ideas of different types of databases, so far I have created several for this playlist and I'm looking for new ideas for different examples of databases. I can use that information to create a dashboard. You can send me an email. My contact information is in the description box below, and I will link the full playlist. So if you haven't checked out those videos, you can go ahead and check them out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.